City TV's CityLine presents the best of Home Day, your personal guide to home decoration.
It's lovely. We can't wait to see the rest of the place. But what I want to say is that the wall treatment that you used in your dining room, it's a dining room, living room, actually.
Yeah, I did the whole area.
Yeah, was what we're going to show right now. This was not wallpaper.
No, this is the answer to that really nice, luxurious tone-on-tone striped wallpaper that we all love.
Yeah. Which is very expensive.
Which is, yeah, I mean, it can go, you can find it for maybe $10 a roll, but it can be $50 a roll as well.
Right.
And 9 times out of 10, when you find it, you don't find the color you want.
Exactly.
Right, because the color is very important. So this was my answer, 1, to the budget side of it, and 2, to finding the color I needed to match the fabric in my, to match the fabric.
Oh yeah, putting it all together, sure.
Yeah.
So this is going to be very easy. It's just that you have to do a lot of measuring before you do it. But once you do that...
Yeah, actually it's a little bit of measuring. The first thing is to get the first stripe straight. It's like hanging wallpaper. And usually start out of a corner, and this is where you want to make sure you start right out of a corner.
Now, can I make mention of something that you taught me about painting? Start, when you walk into a room, look at the least likely corner that you would look at.
Right, except for, in this technique, you want to start, there's always an exception to the rule, right?
Except for?
This one, you want to start in the corner that you do see when you walk in the room, so you make sure you get the stripes going perfectly out of the corner instead of wrapping around the corner.
Don't ever listen to what I say on that, because I'm always wrong.
No, I really try though. But that way you get a flat stripe here and you get a shiny stripe going down that wall.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So what you want to do is, I use this Easy Mask. It's a low tack tape and it comes a number of different widths, but I use 3 inches. And you start by just simply placing your tape down that first corner, but make sure it's straight first. And do that by taking a level. It's a lot easier than a plumb line. And just simply mark maybe 2 or 3 tick marks down the wall so you can line your tape up edge against that.
All right.
Okay. Then once you do that, usually what I do is take another little piece of tape. Just rip a piece off of here.
Sure.
We can get rid of the level.
Don't worry, we've got instructions for you. We're just going to show you how to do it first.
And then to measure off how wide your stripe is going to be, I use this little piece of paper, and I'll show you that in a second.
Okay.
And then we just paint a shiny varnish, a clear coat, in between the pieces of paper.
That's all there is to it.
That's all there is to
so
it.
Did you, I know you did this by yourself.
Yeah.
Does it not help though if you have somebody else to do
this? This is an easy one-person project.
Is it?
It's very easy.
Okay.
So at the end of the wall here, I'll just finish putting up the last piece. So I take my little piece of paper to measure out my width. And by the way, you don't have to make your stripes even. You could make it a fat, skinny, fat, skinny, fat, skinny. Just always make them the same.
Right.
Right.
All right.
And then just put your ticks down the wall. And then hand me my roll of tape.
Hand your roll of tape, okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Line that up with your ticks.
On top or right beside?
Beside the ticks.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Go right over the switches and everything.
Yeah. By the way, you know how you glazed over my switches in my living room?
Right.
I had to call in an electrician. They were stuck.
Aww. Didn't you bang them?
I did. I did.
Oh. Okay. Now this is really low tack tape. Usually what I do is I put probably enough tape on to do 3 or 4 stripes at a time. And then I reposition my tape, so I'm reusing, and that way you don't have to buy as much tape. And then you simply take your varnish, and this is a latex clear coating.
Yeah.
So it's nice and easy to work with. It's not like an oil varnish, and it won't yellow like an oil varnish.
What kind of a brush do you use on that?
Just a synthetic bristle brush.
Synthetic bristle.
Not a pure bristle. Just dip it in,
right.
and you'll notice that it's white in the can. It's kind of like a milky color. It dries clear. Okay, so don't let that fool you. And then just simply paint very quickly. You can roll, take a little 3-inch roller, roll in between the paper stripes.
Never need. And so simple.
Yeah. And then when it dries, you'll get that tone-on-tone look. If you want, you can take off those pieces of tape up there.
All right.
I know you like removing the tape.
I do too. I do. See? Is that simple? Who's going to do that this weekend?
Yeah.
Admit it. You are. You are.
Oh, I'll tell. Okay, watch this. It'll cost you about $15 to do a living room, dining room combination. Now, how many people are going to do it?
Are you doing it? Are you going to do it? Hey, you know, that'll look really good in your white on white. Your white on white room. Huh? Look what you're going to do this weekend. You're excited, aren't you? All right.
White on white would look fantastic.
Wonderful.
And the nice thing, one thing that you might want to be aware of, is the darker the color that you do this on, the more pronounced the stripes will be.
True.
And also the softer the lighting is in the room, the more pronounced they become. So it's a really nice treatment if you want to see maybe not too much detail in the daytime, but say at nighttime when you turn the lights down low or you have soft mood lighting, it really becomes more dramatic. So it's a really, really pretty finish.
It's very easy. Now, how long does it take to dry?
This will dry in probably about 30 minutes. So, I mean, it's really fast and easy.
Perfect. It's perfect.
And you can just do, you know, half the room if you want one day and the other half another day.
But I think you'll be so excited about it, you'll just want to do it all.
Sure.
I would. Oh, come on, let's just do every room of the house and see what happens.
One more stripe, okay?
Okay, one more stripe. Can I take this off now?
Yep.
You done? Okay.
Do, 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 do.
Isn't that something?
Oh.
Isn't that something? And you just think this is great.
Take off that one more right there.
Okay, this is great.
Yeah.
This is great.
So
Do you
that's
love
all-
this? I love this.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? We're going to do the floor that you have in your kitchen, actually.
Right, yeah. It's the same technique that we've done before. What we want to do is put down our grout lines so that we see the grout. And always remember your grout's going to be the background color of your floor.
That's right. Now, this tape that you buy, which you use all the time, you probably have stock in it by now.
Yeah, I should.
Where do you get this?
Art supply store.
All right.
I usually go to Curry's in town, but what it is, it's called Letraline, and it's 1/8 of an inch thick, and it's not too expensive. It's about $4 or $5 for this roll.
Okay.
So what you do is you just draw your pencil lines on the floor, and I used a 2x2 grid.
Stay right there. Don't move.
Okay.
Okay.
And then what you want to do is tape the tape to one side of the pencil line, and that's very important. I learned the hard way when I did my bedroom.
So not on the pencil line,
Right.
but on one side of the pencil line,
Right.
and always stay on that side.
Exactly. So when you paint over the pencil line. What I did in my bedroom is I did it on top of the pencil line, and then when I removed the tape, I had to go and rub out all the pencil lines around the room. So learn from my mistakes.
Okay.
So we've taped off most of the board. I'll just tape off the last few lines.
Okay.
And then it's as easy as any glazing technique we've done. So we've mixed up our glaze using the 5-to-1 ratio.
5 to 1. 5 glaze, 1 color.
Right, exactly. And then just pour it in a pan and use a little 3-inch roller. And what you're going to do is glaze each square one at a time. The nice thing about this is if you do sort of like I've done, glaze sort of all those squares in this direction, and we'll show you how to do that, you can still walk in the room because you can sort of tiptoe on those squares that haven't been painted while these ones are wet.
Right.
And then the next day you can come back and do these ones.
Yeah.
So just
And it's okay if you go, hey, this is the first time it's okay to color out
over
of the lines.
Yeah. And
You
so
know?
you just roll your glaze on.
All right.
And just do it one square at a time. It's a really nice job because you can stop and start this project anywhere you want. You know, if
Well,
you have
why
to
don't
go
I do
pick
that?
the kids up.
Can we do that?
Okay, yeah, sure.
I'll do that. We'll change sides here. I can do this for him.
Then what we're going to do is we're going to take a plain old plastic drop sheet and we're going to accordion pleat it. Keep going, Marilyn.
I'm
Keep
going, I'm going, I'm
We're
going.
going to accordion pleat it in our hands.
Okay.
And this is what's going to give us the directional lines of the slate. Now, to make it really look realistic, what we want to make sure we do is that we change the direction on the tile. So one way it'll go this way, and the other way it'll go this way.
This way. Okay, that's how you did that. All right.
So I did all the this way ones, so now we'll come
do the
over
other
there
way.
and do the other way.
All right.
So that's great.
When you did that, when you did this, did you start in the center and then work your way out? I mean, I know
Yeah.
that you can leave every other one open.
To do the pattern, what I did is because I have a galley kitchen, I made sure that the diamonds sort of ran down the middle of the kitchen.
All right.
So it looked more interesting. The other thing is make sure that you don't do the pattern straight on in the room, that you do it on an angle, because one, they won't be able to tell if your lines are crooked, and two, you won't be able to tell if your room isn't square if you do it on a diagonal. And it also makes the room look larger.
Did you, when you were doing this, did you always think to yourself, okay, how am I going to do this? Did you ever make a mistake and did you start all over again with this glazing, or did you really?
I made a mistake, but I moved the fridge on top of it.
That's a good idea. Do it over the, where
Start in the areas where the cupboards are, or the
Yeah.
fridge, or stuff like that.
That's a great idea.
So anyways, you just lay this plastic on, and you want to lay it on sort of in a linear line look.
Yeah.
And then you just do the smushing. Oops. Back
you
and
really
forth this way.
Okay. All right.
And then just pull
That's
the
what you can do with
plastic
all
off.
those old dry cleaning bags.
Right. So we can put glaze on that
Oh, all
square
right.
now.
She's putting me back to work. Okay. That's
So-
that easy. How long does it take to dry, Les?
It'll dry, well, I did this about an hour and a half ago, and it's dry now.
Wow.
So you can actually walk on the kitchen floor in about 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
But what you want to make sure you do is that you clear coat it with at least 2 coats of high gloss varnish for durability.
Yeah.
And that way it'll be as durable as any hardwood floor.
When you use varnish, though, like it's a 24-hour period before between each coat?
Well, for a standard varnish, yes, but you can get a 1-hour varnish,
Oh, you
which
can?
dries
Oh, I
in
didn't know
2
that.
hours, and you can recoat it in 4 hours. So you can actually do, 2 coats in one day. So it really can be all done in one weekend.
I'd reach over, but I wore a mini today,
Okay, I'll do it.
and there's going to be things exposed. So it's a morning show.
Well, if you can
You know.
paint in a dress here, anybody can
Yeah,
paint
if you
at
can
home.
paint a dress. Oh, of course, I always paint in a dress. Don't you? Peter does. He
There you
paints
go.
in a dress. Okay.
And so,
While you're doing this, you're going to do that again.
yep, we just lay it on again in our line pattern.
Leslie,
And
there's-
smoosh it.
Can I
2
stand
more
up now?
squares?
Can I
you know
sit?
You know what you can do for me? You
What's
can
that?
start to take the tape off if you want.
Oh, okay.
And
All
we'll
right,
show
what are we
our
going to do?
bright lines.
I'm going to take the tape off. You're going to keep painting, and
Yep.
we're going to take a break. We'll be back in a couple minutes. Stay with us.
Now that we've found the fabric that we want to use in our CityLine room, we have to decide what we're going to do with the walls. This particular fabric we decided we're going to use on the sofa bed. So what we want to do is paint the walls in the room to coordinate with it. Now we've decided that the aquamarine color is probably going to be the best color for the background and the wall, the major wall color. So what we're going to do is match this particular color on the computer, since it's such a difficult color for us to find. The other colors that we're going to also use is this gold tone here for the ceiling, as well as this burgundy red and this pinstripe of blue as the accent sponge colors on the bottom part of the wall. I'm going to take this fabric over to Joe Grabazy now and ask him to match that green for me on the color matching computer. The nice thing about the computer is quite often when you're working with difficult colors such as that green and burgundy, is it's usually very difficult to find that particular color in the color chip display. And if you do, it usually takes a long time. So Joe, using the computer, can have it analyze the color of the fabric in a matter of 30 seconds. Once we have the printout from the computer, we bring it over to the tint machine and we dispense the colorant into it to make the proper color. We then shake it on the shaker and we open it up to see what we've received. Now usually what you have to do is do a rub down or a draw down on a card, force dry it so you can actually see the color, and then we can compare it to the sample. And as you've seen, we've got a pretty close match the first time. Boy, it sure is green, but once you look at it with the couch, you can see that our color matches come out pretty good, and it really helps to emphasize the contrast of not just the sofa, but also the woodwork and the furniture. Now, to complete this look, what we want to do is we're going to emphasize the striping effect, and we're going to start to do a sponge painting technique on the bottom part of the wall. The interesting thing about this technique that's a little bit different from maybe some sponge painting that you're used to seeing is we're going to create a striping effect, and also we're going to use some spray paint, which most people probably would be quite frightened of. We've taped the wall off, as you can see, so that the areas where the tape is on the wall is going to hide it, so that when we do our spray painting, it will leave those areas green underneath. And then we're going to come back and do sponge painting with 2 colors, red and blue, over top of that right away while everything's still wet. So here we go. With the spray paint, usually you have quite a bit of overspray, and you can see that we just want to randomly place it on the wall, not covering all the areas, but just sort of giving the idea of this gold tone behind it. We're going to use the 3 colors that were predominant in the sofa fabric, the blue, the red, and the green. In order to apply all the same colors, one right after the other, we're going to want to use a separate sponge for each color. And we're going to start with the red color because it is going to be the most vibrant, and therefore we're going to cover it up as we go with our sponges. Most of you are probably familiar with sponge painting, so we're just going to start with our basic technique of straight up and down dabbing motion to cover generally the whole wall surface area that we're working on. The next step is to just peel off the tape to reveal the background color. See how easy it is? Now we can start with our next color, the blue. We really like the effect with just the gold and the red, but we're going to add just a bit of blue to soften it. And remember, if you make a mistake, you just paint over it. We're going to just finish up with a little bit of green. And in case you're wondering, we're using latex paint. So if you want to clean up afterwards, you just use a little bit of soap and water. Now we want to just add the finishing touch, which will be a border across the top here. And in order to do that, we need to reposition our tape. We're going to protect our handiwork by covering it up with some paper and tape. You can buy pre-cut stencils or you can cut your own like we've done. First thing you want to do is line up the stencil along your tape line. Holding it flat, just take your spray paint and fill in the blanks. So what do you think? Pretty easy, huh?
Hi, we're ready to start our window treatment part of the room. We're working with the golds mainly to pick up the stenciling that's been done around the room and that's been used in the sponge painting. We've gone with an antique brass because there are limited colors available in the rods and we want the rod to be a focus. We've chosen a blind from Mardell called White Gold because it blends in beautifully with the rod that's available as well. Our valance that we're doing is very simple. It's done basically just with Velcro attached to our rod, and we chose a print that we feel really beautifully picks up the sponge painting and the stripe of the fabric on the sofa, and it's lined in the plum as well. So all we're going to do is take a long scarf of our fabric, attach Velcro to it, stick it up on the blind, and it's gorgeous. You'll be really impressed. Now we're going to start our installation on the rod. We've already got the rod in place and we're going to attach the valance with Velcro. When you buy Velcro, it comes in two pieces. One's the soft side, which we attach to the fabric valance, and then the rough side, which has a peel and stick part, we're going to use to actually attach to the rod. I've cut it into 5 little 1-inch squares, and this is all I need to attach the valance to the rod. I'm going to put these at 5 evenly spaced points starting in the center, and then my valance will be attached to that. Okay, we're ready to hang our valance, and we just get up here on the ladder, and we start with the center just because it's easier to distribute the weight. I find my center piece of Velcro, tag it on. A little bit of pressure will hold it. If it sounds like it's tearing away, that's just because the weight isn't evenly distributed yet. I take my next piece, do the same, reinforce it a bit. You can see it's draping in between. And if I can get a hold of my third one, it goes on the end, there. Okay, we're going to fix this one and then our end one again. Looks kind of nice just like this, but we're not done yet. Okay, we've got Velcro on 2 points on the other end, and this is going to flip up and attach on, flashes the lining, and just gives it a little bit more interest. And we'll do that again in the middle on the other side. Okay, basically all you need after that is just a few simple adjustments. You want both sides to fall relatively the same, but not too structured. You want it to be a casual look. It's very simple to do, easy to take apart, have laundered, put back up again, and it looks gorgeous.
If you're wondering what all this rough lumber and tools are about, we're actually going to make a 4-poster canopy bed for Marilyn. And we're going to start by doing the very first thing, and that is making the headboard that's going to go behind the bed, project the bed out into the room so that we can introduce the center lighting into the bed area, and that's going to be really nice. I had the Lansing people cut 5/8" particle board for me into the pieces I need for the headboard. And then just using L brackets, we just screw the pieces of wood together. It's pretty easy. You could even do this. The next thing we need to do is take this new headboard and move it into place behind the bed. The reason we're doing this now is so that we can use it to measure the side rails from. And we're actually going to wait, and Mary's going to upholster it later because it's going to match the side panels for the canopy. Now that we've had the wood cut for our side rails and our posts, we want to finish them. There's 2 ways you can do that. You can paint it. That's going to take a little bit longer, but it will save you some money. Or else you can cover it with fabric like we're going to do. The reason you want to make sure you do this step is so that you're not going to see it when the side panels go up. Now the easiest way to cover the lumber pieces with fabric is to measure it by wrapping the fabric roughly around the lumber, making a little slit in the fabric, and then rip it. We're going to need about 4 pieces for the posts and 6 pieces for the rails. So make sure you do it all the first time. To attach the fabric to the wood, just lay the wood in the center of your piece, fold up one edge, use your staple gun to attach it, and then fold over your other edge so you have a nice, neat, finished end, and just staple that into place. And just continue down the wood until you have it all completed. Make sure you pull it tight as you go so it has that nice polished look. Now, the staples are going to be visible, but don't worry about that, because when we put this all together, it's going to be on the back side and you'll never see them. Once you have all the pieces of lumber upholstered, the next thing you're going to do is put it together, and it's not as hard as you think. The first step is to take your 4 upright pieces and measure 15 inches from the bottom, mark that spot, and install an L bracket on each post. After the L brackets are installed, then simply attach the side posts to the bottom side rail in the center of your piece of wood. Now you're going to put one on each end, and you're going to build the 2 units like that, so that you have 2 side units. Now after you finish putting that piece on, all you simply want to do is put another L bracket, exactly the same height, facing the opposite direction on each of the posts. And that's going to allow us to attach the front side rail. Now that we have the side rails done on the bottom, we're going to use the side rails on the top to make the bed stable. Now you might think that we did a little backwards. We could have put them on when we were on the floor, but quite often the ceiling is uneven, and in this particular case we want them to go as close to the ceiling as possible. So that's why we're putting them on afterwards. Well, it's all done, and it may not look too fancy, but it's a good solid framework for putting your drapery treatments on, or the side panels. Now, don't worry too much about the staples, or if your carpentry down here in the corners wasn't exactly perfect, because once we get the drapes on, you'll never even notice it.
Now that Leslie has this all built, we're on to the other stage, the fabric part. And what I'm going to do first is upholster this headboard. I put a layer of quilt batting down, and then I'm just going to use a piece of the fabric. I haven't done any finishing to it at all. I'm just going to start stapling it around the whole square box so it covers up everything nice and neat.
The great thing is that now that we got the headboard finished, we can actually attach the bed frame to it to make it sturdier. And then once we get the ceiling on and the side panels, we can attach that to the ceiling so that it's really nice and sturdy and you don't have to worry about it falling over.
Now we're stapling on our roof section. It's just a flat piece of fabric that's going to sort of just cover the whole thing, and then we'll put our curtain on over everything, hide all the staples.
I can't see what's straight on that.
I know. We're doing okay though. I never make mistakes. Oops! Now that I've got one side done, I'm going to pull it over to the other and keep it nice and straight. But I have to be sure that I keep it square too, because I don't want ripples in this thing when it's all done.
I mean, this is your part of the project.
Yeah. Who's the expert here? Now that we've got the whole ceiling part done, we're going to attach the valance and the side curtains. Everything's going to be held in place with Velcro. We'll have one long strip that goes around the top of this headpiece, and then we'll have 4 short pieces, one at each corner, to hold the side curtains. Get ready! Okay, I want to at least put up one curtain. I can't wait to see what this looks like. Okay.
We can do that, right, before we get everything
That's
up?
the wonder of Velcro.
Okay.
Ooh, I love it.
She's gonna love it.
See, and then we'll just, oh, this is gonna be great. Okay, now that we've got the back panel in place, we can move the whole bed back. Okay. 1, 2, 3, push!
Together.
We got it.
Great.
Okay, now we're going to put the valance up, and I've got Velcro on the back of this as well. So if you can line that pleat up just at the corner, we may have to sort of play with it a bit, but that's the nice part about Velcro.
Okay, right there?
I think so, and let's just smooth it out. Oops. I can probably straighten it later.
Wow, this really makes it. Oh.
Okay, and I've made pillow shams as well, and I put a nice sort of decorative braid that picks up all the colors in the print. We'll add some cushions later too, I think. It's time to go find Marilyn, get her to see this. Marilyn!
fun!
Look what we did.
Oh my God, it's great! It's great!
You love it?
It's great!
You can hardly wait.
No, I can hardly wait to go to sleep. Of course, I can hardly wait to go to sleep all the time. This is beautiful. This is, I mean, more than I thought it would be. I mean, it's terrific. What are you doing?
I think she likes it.
I like it.
It's not finished yet, though.
Oh, okay.
We wanted your input on this.
Yeah.
We have this side tester and it's nice and long, but we have 3 possible ways of finishing this.
Okay.
Either we can kind of bunch it up like this, or we can just let it sort of fan out. But you probably suck it up with the vacuum.
I can do that, and-
Okay.
yeah, and then
or
add
else
a
then
bit
we
of
can
run into
do
it.
sort of a bishop sleeve and put a nice fat tassel here, and
I
let
like
it just
that
kind
tassel.
of. And the tassel will be the same color as the trim that's on the pillow shaft.
I like this the best.
Okay.
I
Well,
like this the best.
I'll order the tassel.
Okay, great, thanks. Oh, it's wonderful, you guys. It really is. Where's the man that goes into this bedroom?
We can't help you with that.
You can't make one of those?
No, we keep them for ourselves.
How many of you have something wooden at home that you have down in the garage or the basement, and you don't want to throw it out because you think it might look good someday, but you just don't have the energy to paint it? Okay, okay. Well, you don't necessarily have to paint it, right? You can do some staining with it.
Right.
With paint.
Yep.
Okay.
Actually, this had it had a dark sort of mahogany stain on it with varnish on it.
Yes,
So what we did is, the legs are really difficult to strip because they're very intricate. So what we did is we just stripped the top, because that's the easiest part of any table to do, so that we could stain it, and we just painted the legs to match.
Okay. Now,
so that it saved a lot of time.
Did you prime the legs and everything?
Right. We put an enamel underbody on so it stuck to the varnish surface.
Okay.
And then we put an oil-based high gloss on top of it. But you don't have to use high gloss, but oil-based for sure.
So this is neat, you know. I mean, it's detailed work and everything, but it's fun because you saw the picture of the. What were you doing out in the parking lot with the table anyway? But look at the detail here. It's really wonderful, and it's a lot of fun to do. But the most interesting thing, I think, is just taking a look at what you've done at the top of the table, and I want to know how you do this.
Well, basically what we did was we matched stain in the paint colors that we had chosen.
Right.
And you can do that. There's a product called Neutral Blender which is actually stain without any pigment in it.
Okay.
And then you can get the paint store to tint it just like they would tint paint. And it becomes translucent so that when you put it on the wood, you can still see the grain through it.
Oh, I see.
And so that's
okay.
what we've done on the top here, and we've used some really neat colors like pink and blue and green and purple and
Absolutely.
all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so Leslie, you stripped this part.
Right.
And then how did you came up with the design on paper first? Is that how you
Yeah,
did it?
I always sort of work on a piece of grid paper and sketch out some ideas. And for instance, this was the top of a jewelry box that I just traced around. And
Okay.
I never really measure much, so I just kind of trace around things. And then this is the Letra tape that we've used before on doing floors, where we mask off our design
Okay, so the tape is still on there, and where do you get this tape?
at an art supply store.
Okay, so it's called
Letra Line.
Letra Line, okay.
Yeah. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to just stain this area right here. So believe it or not, this is from my flannel nightie.
Oh, well, we know budgets are tight, but really, you don't have to cut up your clothes.
So just a nice piece of cotton fabric, and you just sort of wipe it into the wood.
And you can
this.
go over the line a little bit because
Yeah.
you got that tape there.
Right, so you just keep wiping it into the wood, and this is really a lot faster than painting. So you
This
just
is
wipe
great.
it in any which way direction until you got sort of an even surface
Yeah, okay.
on it. I need just a little
This
bit
is
more.
so easy.
And well, you can get this. I mean, you can tint this stain in almost, 1,500 colors.
Wow.
So I mean, really, you can coordinate any piece of furniture color-wise to anything
Sure.
you want, and it really kind of makes an old piece look contemporary and funky.
Yeah,
if that's what you're looking for.
That's what it really is. It's really funky, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Now, just to finish off, I always wipe with the grain of the wood.
Why is
so that it sits in there, and you might get some streaking with this. So this just streaks in the same direction that the grain of the wood is.
Now, this is pretty strong smelling stuff, so again, ventilated place.
Well ventilated.
Now, do you do a couple of, you let this dry for how long?
This will have to dry overnight.
Okay.
This area here has been dry for a couple of days, so after it's dry, you can just simply, you can help me do this, Marilyn.
Oh,
just
good.
grab
I like
the
doing
tape
that.
and start
I like
peeling
doing
it
that.
off.
I like doing that. Oh, can I do? Oh, I better not do this one though, because
Yeah.
this one. Okay, can I do this one?
Actually, you can do that one if you want as well.
Oh, okay.
Basically, whenever you do any masking of any kind, take the tape off as soon as you're done, because the solvent in the paint is the natural thinner.
Yeah.
For the glue on the back of the tape, or the adhesive. And that's why when people paint their woodwork and they mask it off and they leave the tape on,
Yep.
they have problems getting it off the next day, it's because everybody's gone through that. It's the biggest mess in the world.
But so Leslie, though, if I have to do another coat of this, though, I would have to keep some of that tape on.
Exactly, but it's entirely up to you. If you like it that color, you can leave it the way it is. If you're going to do another coat tomorrow with the stain, then take it off.
This is great. This is a great idea.
Anyways, we can just take it off one corner area.
Okay.
And then I'm
just going to cut this
take very quickly some high gloss varnish.
All right, here,
and we're going to show you how this punches out when you put the varnish on it.
Oh, wow. And you're using a sponge...
yeah, just a foam applicator brush. Yeah. They tend to work the best, I find, with varnishes. Make sure you never shake your varnish or your urethane before you put it on because it's going to get air bubbles in it. So just stir it gently and then brush it over the surface area.
What would that do if you got air bubbles on it?
Well, it's going to get like little pock marks all in the surface area, and then you're going to have to sand it all down and redo it. Wow. So we can basically go over the whole surface except for this one area that we've stained already.
Even though I didn't take all the tape off, is it going to hurt it?
Well, I probably made a boo-boo there, but I was hoping you wouldn't notice.
Well, of course I will notice. Let me do this. Oh, so what about my nails? That's okay. A little varnish doesn't hurt anybody.
But we just wanted to give you the idea that you can see how the colors look much more muted when they're just dry, but once you put the high gloss varnish on it, it just pops it right out.
It's great. What do you guys think? Audience? Yeah? I think it's terrific. You know what? I've also seen some wonderful things that the people have done with stuff like this, like on mirrors, like frames of mirrors, and they go onto the mirror itself.
Exactly.
Now, is that the same kind of paint that you can use?
Yeah, you can use the same type of thing. If you're painting on a mirrored surface, you're going to have to use that wall grip #1 like we've used on tile floors before.
Yes.
For hard, shiny surfaces, and that'll let the paint adhere to it.
Maybe we'll do that on another show.
Okay.
Okay. Is this going to be difficult to do, first of all?
No. What I really want to show you today is the trick for making the shape right.
Okay.
Okay. Because a lot of times when you do our French doors, you'll see the tight curtains top to bottom.
Yes.
And they're really nice and tight the whole way over. But if you try to pull them, you can't. You don't get a really nice hourglass shape because everything's the same length. Or else you make it so that it pulls in here, but then it all droops out here. Okay. So I'm going to show you the trick for that.
Okay. All right.
Does
who of you in the audience have French doors?
I think almost everybody does.
Or would like to have. Almost everyone does. They're going, not my house. No. One person. So we're glad that we could appeal to so many people on just one show. Okay, let's do that.
I'm going home.
No, you're not. You know what? I love French doors. I just have no place to put them. Okay,
so what we're going to do is take two measurements. The first measurement that we'll take is we're going to actually mount the rods first. Then from where the rod is, we'll measure down to the bottom rod. That's our straight center line. But then we're also going to take a second measurement and go from the rod in the shape of what we want the hourglass itself to be.
So you go from here to where?
And down along. So you're going to just follow the shape that the hourglass itself. If you want it really tight, you'll go into the middle. But if it's a wider, expansive glass, maybe you'll come out a little bit more. Okay. So actually, you're going to have the line in the middle will be shorter than the side line.
Okay, now listen, if you're confused thus far, don't be, because later on in the show we'll tell you how to get the instructions
I always write
to
the
this.
Instructions.
She does them, and they're clearly printed out for you.
Okay, so what I've got is my fabric, and if you can see here, I folded it in half lengthwise, the length of the window.
Yeah.
And the mark here where I start is the center short line, A, and then the long line is the hourglass one. So there's a little bit of a difference.
Yes, I see, because it's thinner here and then it widens here.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is actually cut through both folds of fabric along this line. So my fabric will have it'll be straight on the sides, but it'll have a scoop in the middle at the top and at the bottom.
All right.
Okay, so once I've got that done, I will have sewn my side hems, just normal neat seams.
I have to ask you, out of curiosity, this is beautiful material. What is this?
This is moire.
It's lovely.
And it's one of the fabrics that usually you use shears on a door because you have to see both sides.
Yeah.
But this doesn't, it has a wrong side, but it's not a pronounced difference in color. So something like this is nice.
Soft.
It's got more weight to it.
I really like it a lot.
Okay, so what we've got here is a finished curtain. And if you can bear with me 1 second here, I'll just put this up.
And again, what do you think the sewing time for this? It's just the measuring that takes up the most time.
It took me half an hour per panel, but I didn't do my side hems. I cheated. Okay. But normally, this is an easy afternoon job or a weekend job. Yeah. So we're going to put them in place. And what you can see happening when I put these in is that the center is tight, but then I've got all this loose stuff on the sides, just kind of hanging in there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take a cuff of fabric, a band, that I made, and we can just tie it
It's just a regular band.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll just take a piece of fabric that I folded and finish the edges.
You want to step back so we can see what you're doing here?
And I can just tie that and loop it or put a bow on it or whatever.
Yeah, how did you do that? Oh, that's
It's
nice.
just really simple. And then the ends would be tied underneath, or rather folded underneath to
Yeah.
hide them. Now, I also made a little rosette that's actually just a circle with 2 rows of stitching. And once you gather it all in, it makes a really
How do you
pretty-
know? I know that you know, I don't want to get in.
Okay,
into
it's just
too
about
deep.
a 12-inch circle.
Okay.
And I put 1 row of stitching close to the center, another row of stitching around the outside, and when I gather it all, it just all kind of scrunches together, and then you pull the top through the bottom like that.
Oh.
And it,
So that's not a separate sewn piece.
no,
that's
it's
one
all, it's just a
circle.
circle.
Excellent.
I did it watching TV. It's just sitting.
CityLine, you were doing it when you're watching CityLine. I know you were doing. So that's great. So
that's
really,
all there is to
that's
it.
all there is to it. What do you think? Like it?
Easy.
Like it? Good. Just when you think you've seen all the drapery treatments there are in this world, you've got another one. And this one's called the Turban Valance, right?
Someone else might have another name for it, but
Okay.
that's what I'm calling it.
Okay.
What I did was try to find something a little bit different, and so what I've done is turned it sideways. Normally the rods would be at the top, and even if you're doing 2 rods, you'd have 1 above and 1 below.
Yes.
I turned them sideways, and actually the rods are going to be mounted vertically instead of horizontally.
Okay.
So what we are going to do is actually just measure the top that we'd want. This only works really on a small window. You don't want too wide an expanse.
Okay.
But we would measure tight between, and then we would take a cloth tape and just sort of calculate the amount of drape that we would want.
And the way that you want it. You don't do
Yeah.
it tightly, you just
So-
let it drape it.
Right, and then measure, what you would do is about 2.5 times the length between the 2 ends of the rod.
Okay.
And so you're going to sort of cut a shape like this. Is
Okay.
that a hexagonal?
Hexagonal? Oh, don't ask me. That's a geometric question. And
I
didn't
meant to
do
look
well.
that up.
Did you? Now, I just want to let you know, as always, I'll have the address for where and
And the
how
instructions.
and the instructions
Right.
on this thing. Okay.
So this one, basically all we did was sew the top, put pockets in either side for the rods, and then I sewed some decorative trim in the bottom.
Nice.
So I'm going to just fish some rods through either one of these pockets. And this gives us a little bit more tailored look than I normally come in here and
Yeah,
show you.
yeah.
It's a little bit more formal or more tailored. If you did a solid fabric, it could be even more contemporary.
Now, I have to ask you, when you talk about the size of the window, what size window do we not want to exceed with a treatment like this?
I wouldn't do more than about a 45-inch window, really.
Is that right?
Yeah, and
Okay.
a lot of newer homes that size, they may have a number of those,
Yeah.
but it's not an uncommon size.
All right. Would it, if you have that, and maybe like 2 of them or 3 of them, I'm just trying to imagine.
You would do 1 on each
one
window.
on each one. Okay. All right.
Okay,
All right.
so I'll just hang this up here. So I'm going to snap it in on these rods. These are just little sash rods, and you want about the smallest
Yeah,
rod
did
that you
this
can
snap in?
find.
Yeah. Okay. Did this? I don't think it snapped in.
Okay, hang on one second.
Okay.
Okay, and then
Like that.
what I'll do is just adjust my gathers, hide the rod.
Yeah.
And what it does is it gives you a gathering through here and a nice little drape on the bottom.
See, that's what's so great about chintz, because it's so crisp, right, Anita? You
doesn't just bag.
That's right. Yeah,
takes
you
the
can
shape.
really
Okay,
make
and
it look
then
nice.
just to finish it off,
Oh, a tassel.
These are key tassels, and I know we've talked about using them on armoires and things like
Sure.
that. But I like to use them on window treatments. So what I
Yes.
would do is just tack it on to either corner, just to give it a little bit of detail on the side. And in fact, it brings the balance down. It brings the corner down a little more even with the center.
Okay.
And do one on either.
But you wouldn't want to put anything up here. You want to leave this pretty plain, right?
I would. You could try one up there. It just depends. I would prefer to see it at the bottom.
Just because of the balancing act that it has to do.
Yeah, because
okay.
you want your eye to be focused on this. and
It looks
together.
really great. What are we going to do today?
This is, I always think it's fun, it's easy, but this one I love. I think it's such an interesting treatment.
Okay.
It's just 2 pieces of fabric.
Uh-huh.
This one I've lined in a contrast, but if your fabric was reversible or solid, you wouldn't even have to do that. So it's just 2 strips of fabric. And I've cut.
Don't worry, we'll give you the directions
Yes,
and all
it's
that
all
stuff
written
later.
there.
Yeah.
And the bottom's cut at an angle.
Okay.
So what I've done is folded it in half with the right sides together, sewn a pocket through here.
So here's the pocket
There's
right
a
through
pocket
here.
through here.
Yep.
And then there's another pocket at the top.
Okay.
Now what I'm using is a 2.5-inch Dauphine rod. This also comes in a 4-inch, so if you want a really high heading, you can use it. It's very smart.
Oh,
when
this
it's
is that gathered look that looks so nice.
It looks
yeah.
smart. Okay,
Yeah,
so what we're
okay.
going to do first is gather the wrong side showing,
The wrong side showing.
flip it. You can see that.
Oh, and then on the opposite end,
Yeah.
the more floral side showing. You with me so far, audience? They're going, okay,
Okay.
okay.
Okay, so if you can hold this one
Sure,
for me and
okay.
just keep the
Hold it
fabric
like
from
this?
slipping off the
Oh,
end there.
okay.
I'm going to push, so don't you push away from
Okay.
me, okay? I'll just thread this through.
Okay.
Please work.
This is a mock smock, isn't it?
A mock. It's a Toga Swag.
A Toga Swag.
Okay. Now I'm going to push.
Push. Okay, I'm holding.
Okay.
Holding,
Oops,
holding,
I
holding.
missed.
Now, you know, something like this is not very expensive to do. I mean, if you've got your fabric, it depends on what fabric that you choose. But this sort of, what is this called again?
A Dauphine rod.
Is it expensive to buy?
It's under $10, but it depends on the size that you're using.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
just bear with me here for one
Okay.
second. I'm a bit jammed up here.
Here we are.
Okay.
Isn't that amazing?
So then
So
it snaps into place, which is part of the.
Oh, you're kidding? That's
Yeah.
it? Oh my gosh.
Just there. So.
Huh?
Okay. And then, because it's lined,
Yeah.
we can show our lining.
So you go like this and just do it this way?
Yeah, and you just set it into place. Now, this, I haven't squashed it down enough, but
Okay.
it'll come over, cover the brackets.
Oh, okay, so I'll push it over this way.
Now, you can also, when you thread it through the rod, crisscross the center section, so it gives it
go
an
like,
even.
like this and crisscross it.
Normally, to do this kind of treatment, you buy this separate and you buy this separate, but ours is all one piece, one rod, and it's really
easy
really
to do.
easy.
Mary Dobson is with us with yet another window treatment, and this time using sconces. And I have to say that I've got a built-in valance in my living room and my dining room, and I mean talking built-in. And it's too bad because I would love to be able to do this, and this is very easy to do, so you
There's
tell
nothing
me.
to it. You could actually drop it down below that bulkhead that you have, but the problem is that it squats the window.
Sure.
So it's a shame because this is a very pretty but very decorative thing, so you really want to show it off.
Yeah, this is really and classy. This is
This
very
is lovely.
classy.
These are from Bartolini and Company. I believe it's
Yeah, it's
done-
Bartolini Designs, and
Designs,
I'll
sorry,
give you
yeah.
I'll give you the address right now because you'll be interested. 3054 Dundas Street West, and their phone number is 767-4050. This is where these sconces come from.
Okay, great. They're
yeah.
quite heavy. They've got a metal piece in the back to hang them up, and then they have this hole. And you could do a number of things. You could put a wood rod through this if you wanted and gather curtains on, but we're going to actually just gather a scarf and pull it through. What I did is use some of the shearing tape on the back, and I sewed it at a little bit of an angle so that the top will be straight at two pieces, sort of going like this.
Right.
So it's straight at the top, but a drape in the bottom.
Okay, now I just want to, for those of you who are true CityLine viewers, you know what we're talking about with the shirring, but tell me about this again. This
It's
is
just
really
a flat.
handy.
It's a flat tape, and you just sew it on two sides, and you pull the strings, and it gathers it up nice and neat, and
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about it being uneven or anything.
Yes, yeah, it's really handy.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is just sort of fish this end through. This is a bit of a tight fit, so I'll have to play with it. If you can
Okay,
just,
I'll hold
I don't
this,
want to
yeah.
pull that off
Okay.
by mistake.
This,
Okay.
again, this is like, you know, if you are not, if you're not a very good sewer and you can just sew a straight
You don't
seam,
even have to put this
is
tape
easy.
on if you don't want to, because the fit is rather quite tight, so you don't have to have the tape on. I just like things to be nice and neat. I'm
Sure.
a little bit fanatical.
Yes,
like
you
that.
are, yeah.
Details. Okay,
great.
so I'll just pull this through, and as you can see, once I pull it up at the bottom,
Yeah.
it gives us the drape, and I would
tuck
cut
that
those
in there.
strings off afterwards.
Yeah.
And this is actually quite pretty even on its own, but what we're going to do is dress it up a little bit. And what I'm going to use are tie-backs. Just some nice little, I remember my mother used to have these and I begged her to pitch them because I thought they were so awful. But now they're back. So
Yeah.
what we're going to do is just drape them over each of these. We'll bring it over to the side, and you can do as many layers of this as you want, different lengths and everything. And you
just
can
gives you
tack
that-
them in place if you want it for a more secure fit.
Yeah.
And then we'll take some of the cord, and you can do some beautiful things. You can drape it, do sort of bishop sleeves down the sides if you want.
Like you mean in, like pulling it up like
Exactly.
this, the bishop sleeve?
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh,
This
okay.
one we'll just kind of drape it over. And what we'll do is do it at two different lengths so that it's going to accent that curve, but not be too structured. Just
It's like
free form.
decorating a Christmas tree.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I mean,
How
you just
much
don't know where the
garland-
tinsel's going to go, but it's okay because it's
How much
right.
garland is enough?
Sure,
Yeah.
that's right.
So that's all there is to it. Sure.
Now, first of all, I got to say the material is great, and the other thing, you know, when we always say use color on the show, isn't a red wall? Isn't that something when you have the right window?
Now you know what
treatment?
Leslie says about red walls.
What does that make you do?
It improves your love life.
Does it? Okay, that says everything right there, doesn't it?
My
A lot
house
of
is
people
now
out there.
going to be painted
It's
red.
all red. Every place.
Okay, you guys, this is Plan B. This is my new haul, and so far I like it. It's fabric that I've actually put on the walls with liquid starch. It's a little bit messy, but I'm quite pleased with the effect. So I'm going to show you how to do it in 3 easy steps. Step 1 is to trim the salvage, which is the sort of that band that's on the side of the fabric, and to find the match on the wall. Step 2 is painting the liquid starch on the wall. We want a nice thick coat, and a paintbrush is really the best way to get it on. If all goes well, this may be enough to hold it, but if the fabric doesn't want to cooperate with us, we may have to paint the back of the fabric too. But keep your fingers crossed, this I think is going to work. We've got to work fairly fast here because we don't want the glue to get too dry. We can always put another coat on later if that does happen though, so don't panic. This looks like it's going to work, so we're on to step 3, putting the fabric on the wall. So we're matching up the print, and as you can see, the glue or the starch is really grabbing onto the fabric. I have to work pretty fast and just smooth it. I can come back later and sort of reline the print if I need to. Just wrapping it around the corner. Make sure that you don't get wrinkles in it though, and also make sure when you buy the fabric, you don't let them fold it for you. Insist that it be rolled, because once there's a crease in there, it's never going to come out. It's really going to mar the finish. Pretty neat, eh? It really helps to have a friend who's willing to do this with you. Being careful not to electrocute yourself. There you have it. 3 steps and really only about 3 hours to do. It's a great Friday night and no date job.
We're going to do bolsters.
Bolster cushions.
Okay.
Bolster cushions, people tend to think of them as a tailored sort of plain sausage. I like to do something softer, more gathered. And to do them, it's basically you need a square of fabric. It's deceiving. You don't realize how much fabric is needed to cover one.
Because of the cylinder. Okay, all right.
So you get just a square of fabric, but you have to do something on the ends. And the easiest one is just this long tunnel one. And I put some piping and lace
Right
in between.
here. Yeah.
And then
Very
I just
pretty.
add a little extra on the ends to tie it. So I've used just a piece of quilt batting that I rolled up, and we'll just squish this
Okay.
in here.
Okay. Very easy to
Grab
do.
it. Very easy.
All right.
And you can be as creative as you want with the trims and things. Have you got it?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll just pull that on.
Okay, good.
And then just tie it with some decorative cord. But the one that I really want to show you is a little bit different. It's really kind of a pretty one. It's actually a square, not a square, it's a rectangle of fabric. And you can do this up to 45 inches long. This is a bit short. And it's just 2 pieces of fabric, print on one side, solid on the other, with piping on 3 sides. You don't do it on all 4.
On all 4, all right.
Okay. So you leave this end open to turn it out, but then we just stitch it back up by hand.
I see. All
Okay.
right.
Then we're going to take a piece of quilt batting, which is shorter
Yeah.
and narrower, and just start rolling. Did you ever make a jelly roll?
Oh, kitchen?
Who am
You're
I talking
Who are you talking to?
Who am
No,
I
but I've
talking
seen them
to?
make it on Sesame Street.
Okay.
It's very
And you
interesting.
just keep rolling and see what happens. The foam works its way to the
Okay.
end. That's why you need it shorter.
Oh.
Okay. And then we'll just take little ties.
I thought you were going to stick that batting
I
inside,
know.
didn't you?
No, this is really neat.
Oh, that's great.
And then you get a really pretty little rosette
Isn't that
on the end.
great? Do you like this? I like this. I do. That's really good.
And then when I need batting for any other project, I take my pillow apart, use it, and then replace it later.
That is so easy.
There's nothing to it. Now, I used self-covered piping, but I have to tell you, I hate making piping. So if you can get the color that you want already
Sure.
covered, do it.
Okay.
It just takes such little effort to make a cushion like this without all the piping.
So really, the time that you put into this, maybe an hour, half an hour,
15 minutes.
15 minutes.
15
It's
minutes.
an hour for you. Okay. Just I got to give you the truth here because it's about an hour for you.
How about this for a garden paradise? It's really easy to create in 10 simple steps, and I'm going to show you just how to do it. Step number 1. You'll need to take 3 measurements so you can determine how much lattice you're going to need. The first measurement is the width of the bed, 54 inches. Second, you'll measure from the floor to the top of the mattress. You'll be hiding the bottom of the lattice behind the top of the mattress. And third, You'll need to measure from the floor all the way up to where you want the top of the canopy. Now I usually like to make it no less than 7 feet. Step number 2, you'll need to hammer 6 1.5-inch blocks into the wall. This will create the space between the wall and the lattice, so you'll be able to weave your flowers through. This is how I get my nails started. And we got the top. Top. Step number 3, here's the lattice. You'll have to make sure that it fits between one edge of block to the other and also from the bottom to the top. So let's start hammering in. Oops. Great. We're done. Step 4. Take 2 simple planter brackets and attach them to the wall on either side of the lattice at the top. Now this is for the canopy. And don't forget to buy plugs and screws that don't need a drill. Step number 5. Weave your ivy in from the top down so it's going in a natural fashion. You'll want to fill the center section over the headboard, but remember, you're going to have your drapery canopy up at the top. Then buy flowers with a wire stem in them, and then you can just put them in random fashion. Step number 6 is creating the inside of the canopy. This is the part that's closest to the bed. Now we're going to be using a striped coordinating fabric here. To figure out what you need, you'll measure from the top of the bracket to the floor, double that, add the width of the bed, and then because we want to puddle it on the floor, we'll add 1 foot for each side. Step number 7 is exactly the same as step number 6, but this time we'll use a coordinating floral fabric. It'll go on the outside, facing away from the bed. Our poofing here. There we go. Step number 8 adds the 3rd fabric, the lace. It's just going to actually go in here on the end of this bracket, and it helps to hide all of the raw edges along here and adds a really feminine border. Step number 9, move in that bed. And step number 10, make the bed, and then you can add the accessories. So, what do you think? Our wonderful garden paradise. Isn't it a beauty? We're going to show you how to make this great Art Deco mirror, starting off with a builder's vanity and mirror in 5 easy steps. Our first step is to select the colors. Now I've decided on a strong pastel of turquoise, which is a very Art Deco color. Then we're going to coordinate it with a salmon wall and frame it off with black accents, which is again very characteristic of Art Deco. Our next step is to measure the mirror. In this particular case, the mirror is 36 inches high by 24 inches wide. Now we're ready to buy the lumber. We'll have 3 different types. We have half round, which would be the framing on the pediment, masonite to actually make the pediment with, and window framing for the columns. Now in this step we're actually nailing the columns up, which is made out of the window framing, and I'm using silver nails to make it look like Art Deco studs, and we're not going to bother painting them. Now it's time to put the pediment into place. We'll just set it on top of the columns like this and make sure it's even on each side, and we'll start nailing it into place. Okay, nail the half round in for the finishing touches. See how I've lined up the nails? We picked up the wall color with this bath mat, and then the pediment color with these great towels. Now on the vanity top, we've put accessories that are very much in the Art Deco style, and you know, we started it all off with this great Art Deco mirror that we put together for under $100. Want to snazz up your stairs in less than an hour? Well, here's a great idea, stair splattering. What you have to start off with is a base coat of black high gloss enamel paint. And once this is dry, remember to put plastic on your walls, then get out your rubber gloves, your paintbrush, and it's fun time. White is the next second coat that's going to go on because it'll add life to the stairs. Now remember, you're going to have to use an oil base, and when you're done this and it's dry, then we're ready for the next colors. Oh, so messy. And you know, you can have the kids help you in any of their favorite colors. And don't worry about the blobs, they work. Now we're just going to drizzle on the red because we want the other colors to show through. It should take about 12 hours to dry, but we're not done yet. You gotta have a modern house for this. And then there was one. Just be creative. Oh boy. Once your colors are all dry, you'll want to cover it with 2 coats of clear varathane. This staircase makeover cost about $100. Now what a great way to have fun with your family, fixing up your stairs.
We hope you enjoyed all these decorating ideas. We want to remind you that Home Day is on every Thursday morning on CityLine, which, by the way, can be seen Monday.